Hey there guys, Travis here. Today I thought I'd actually do something a little bit different. I thought I'd actually like to sit down and make a video ranking all the different COD Zombies maps. I've been playing Call of Duty Zombies for like 6 years now, and I have a lot of like opinions on the map, so I thought it'd be like just a fun video to sit down and rank them all. So yeah, that's the video for today. The first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to do a little bit of an edit here. We're going to change this. Um, This is going to be the BO4 zone. Now, for most sane people, I think this is pretty obvious as to why I'm doing this, but I do know there are a few Black Ops 4, sticklers out there, a few fans of the game. So my reasoning for putting this, in a separate category, below all the other maps, is Black Ops 4 is a bad game, so all of these maps are going to sit here. Alright, now that we've got that out of the way, we're actually going to move on. And the first, I think the worst map by far is it's Transit. I don't really think anyone can argue that. I will say I'm not necessarily a Transit hater. I really like what Transit tried to do, and in certain scenarios I can have fun with it. But it is just a poorly made map. I do really want to see it have a remake. I'm not going to spend too much time on Transit though, because I think it's very obvious why Transit's E. I don't think anyone's going to be really surprised by that. The next one that I'm going to put here actually might surprise a few people, because this map's made a bit of a comeback in recent years, and that's actually Moon. I think Moon's a garbage map. Few main reasonings for this is the very, very big one for me is the excavators. I fucking hate the excavators. I think they are such a hassle and a fucking bother, and they kill any flow that the map has for me. I hate it. I do not like having to run back throughout the entire map every 5 to 10 rounds with little hacker, throw out my Gersh device and hack the things. I hate that, especially if I want to sit in either the Biodome or the Stamina Up little, I don't think it's Stamina Up, but Tunnel 11, I believe it's called. Either way, both of the high round strategies for this game require you to be in areas where oxygen's necessary, needed, right? Because you want to change your insta-kills to max ammos and all that. So, for that reason alone, Moon's really a fucking huge pain in the ass. The gravity is a huge issue for me. I know a lot of Moon haters don't like the gravity. That's not a huge issue for me. That doesn't really bother me. The other two things that really bother me is the Astronaut. I think the Astronaut is horribly designed. The Astronaut just kind of feels like a worse George Romero. Like, he seems like a version of George Romero who's easier to kill, but is somehow more annoying. And I literally did not know how that was even possible before I actually just sat down and like just thought about it then. But I think that's like the perfect way to summarize the Astronaut. He's just a more annoying George Romero. Also, I think the map would benefit greatly from having both Jug and Speed Cola at Area 51 at the same time. Having to, reset it so that you always have Jug there for when you down, or if you do down and then Speed's there, you have to then do a whole nother cycle and wait for the teleporter to turn back on. I think that's just a really huge oversight. And I think the other one is the fact that you can't have both the Astronaut helmet for the oxygen and the hacker at the same time. That just seems like an absolute fucking massive oversight, and I think the map would be 10 times better if you could carry both items at the same time. Alright, moving on next, we actually have Zetsubou. Now, I know this might surprise some people, because again, Zetsubou seems to be a map that's actually made a little bit of a comeback. I still think it's garbage, to be honest. I know some people go, oh yeah, it's a bad Black Ops 3 map, but it's still a good map. It's really not. Zetsubou does not have a lot going for it. Pretty much the only thing that Zetsubou has going for it is the soundtrack, the Takeo cutscene, and none of the Easter egg, just the cutscene. The Marastagua, no, sorry, not the Marastagua, the KT-9 and the Masamune, which even then do have their own drawbacks because they're such a bitch to actually get, and the Skull. I will say the Skull's great. Those four things are really the only good things. I hate how the map's laid out. The fact that the bunker takes up as much space as what it does is kind of insane, considering especially you don't want to spend any time there, right? Unless you're doing the full Easter egg, right? And you're sitting down there in camping, you don't want to spend any time in the bunker. So you end up in a spot where you only want to be around generator A, B, or spawn, and generator A is a pretty garbage area. So it's really just like generator B and spawn. And even then, like it's not a good layout of a map. Alright, if that makes any sense. You never ever want to be in most of the map. You really only hang around the skull area and generator B in your free time. And keep in mind, I'm not talking about super duper high rounds. I'm more talking about just playing with friends and just taking the map at a chill pace, like round 20 sort of stuff. The map's just laid out fucking terribly. Like the fact that half the map's the bunker alone is a huge issue. Thrasher is another huge one. Thrashers, I think take the cake for the worst boss for me. It's either them, the denizens, or the astronaut from Moon. I think are the worst bosses. Thrashers fucking suck. I think everyone knows that. I'm not going to spend too much time into that. The Easter eggs actually pretty lame. Most of the Easter eggs just getting the upgraded KT4 and then growing a plant to shoot down the plane. And essentially it's just unlocking an elevator really. Getting the wonder weapon and getting the wonder weapon and unlocking an elevator are pretty much it. Even the boss fight isn't great. The boss fight is pretty much just fighting a bunch of thrashers and every now and then shooting the little spores on the big dude. I will say, I actually forgot to say this earlier when I was talking about the good parts of the map. The spider boss fight's actually really cool. Not even just the actual boss fight. The boss fight itself is great, but also this is the first time we've ever seen like a free, not a free perk, but a naturally spawning perk. And that's like hey, you can get the free Widow's Wine and the lake. I think that's like crazy, like really cool. I think that's just like an awesome addition. But overall, yeah, Zetsubou is a pretty garbage map. I don't really like any of it. Easter eggs bad, map layout's bad, bosses are a fucking nightmare. The only real good part of it, the Easter egg I will say, is the Easter egg cutscene and the fact that you can teleport up to the little Grod Krovi teaser. That's about it. Otherwise, Zetsubou is a pretty garbage map, to be honest. Okay, next in we have 5, and I do kind of regret putting 5 here, because I actually like 5. It's just a map that's really... It's had unfortunate game releases, I would say. In Black Ops 1, it was made way too fucking hard, right? I think most people agree with that. And then when it was eventually remade into Classified, it's just Black Ops 4. It's a real shame, actually. One thing I will say, there are a few things I actually really, really love about that map. The characters are fantastic, especially JFK. I think everyone can agree that JFK is really fucking fun to play as. And the Pentagon itself is a really fucking cool area. What sucks is literally everything else. The Wonder Weapon is absolute dog shit. There's no place where you ever really want to be. In single player, you can train the downstairs area, but that's it. And even then, it's not like the greatest. When you're running around the war room, I think it's called. It's still not the greatest. Yeah, I don't know. It's not a good map. And then, God forbid you're playing with more people. That's just horrible. I will say the Pentagon Thief's really good. Pentagon Thief's really cool. The map just really suffers from the fact that there's just no area to be. There's no area to be in 5. I can't really say this any other way. The map is just so unplayer friendly. It's just insane, and it really, really tanks the map down. And it's sad because 5 plays with some really fucking cool concepts, especially like the bonfire sail. But the fact that the map just feels like it doesn't want to be played, it just really tanks it down. And unfortunately, it makes it a D tier. Another DT we have is Shinonuma. Shinonuma is just a really fucking boring map. There's nothing to Shinonuma. I know it introduced the dogs and the Wanderwolf. That's it, right? Apart from those 2 additions, the map's just really fucking boring. It looks pretty good in the remakes, I'll give it that. In the remakes, Shinonuma looks visually good, but it is the most standard, regular zombies map ever, and it's so unbelievably forgettable that I have to put it in D tier. There's nothing really redeeming about the map at all. Even in the remakes, I think it borrows some of the Zetsubou no Shima soundtrack. I could be wrong, but I think there's some of it there. there's just nothing good about it. You don't want to, most of the areas that are outside the little hut, the main hut, they just kind of like little gimmicks, like the doctor's quarter and all that sort of stuff. You don't actually want to spend any time there. The only time you want to spend is I'm forgetting what it's called, but where that either the flinger is or the other one. I'm completely forgetting what it's called. I will show a picture of the area, but that's pretty much the only two areas you ever really want to be in, and there's just nothing to do on the map. It doesn't have a great atmosphere. It's not, fun, changing gameplay. It's just absolutely fucking forgettable. And there's nothing I can really else to say about that. Shinonuma is just an incredibly forgettable map. Speaking of forgettable maps, I think we have Noct. Literally, the only reason Noct isn't looked at as like another bus depot or farm is just because it was the first map. And a lot of people tend to put Noct higher on their lists because, oh, you can't really criticize it, it was the first map. You absolutely can criticize Noct. Noct's a bad map, right? Noct actually, now that I'm really thinking about it, I'm actually going to put Noct under Shinonuma. Because even Shinonuma offers more than what Noct does. So Noct's going to go underneath Shino. And then I would say Noct really is the first map that I don't think's a bad map per se. It just offers literally nothing. You have some decent gameplay, I guess. Just hit the box, look for a good weapon. Flamethrower sort of shit. In the Black Ops 3 remake, you get the Wonderwaff. Not the Wonderwaff, the Wonder Fizz machine, which is a fun addition, but Noct just doesn't do fucking anything. It's just such a bare bones map, and that's fine for what it is. Like Noct is not trying to be anything other than a bare bones map, and that's okay. But it doesn't make it good. In fact, it makes it a bad map because there's just nothing to it. It's Noct Durant Houghton is literally 3 rooms stuck together, and that's it. With a mystery box in one of them. That's literally it. Coming in as our first C tier, we actually have Verrückt. And this does pain me to put here because I do want to put it over the next map. The next map that I put in the C tier, I think actually is much worse than Verrückt, but that's just personal preference, I'll be honest. I will be honest with that, I recognize that's just personal preference. Verrückt is, in my opinion, the best World at War map. It's the most fun one. Verrückt does actually some really, really fucking cool atmospheric shit, and that's something that none of the other World at War maps really do. The only one that even slightly strikes that is Noct, and I'm not even convinced if that's deliberate. Noct just feels empty and alone, essentially, whereas Verrückt doesn't really have that. Verrückt starts off that way, but then very, very quickly becomes a very, very noticeable, chaotic map. Obviously, you have the Wonderwaff in the Black Ops 3 remake, which I think drastically helps the map and improves it. I definitely think the Winter's Howl on the Black Ops 1 version is a complete just piss take. I don't know who the fuck. I don't know why our good pal Jimmy thought that would be a funny little gag, but he did. Verrückt does some really, really cool stuff with how it's laid out as well. The fact that in multiplayer, the 2 players start on opposite sides of the map and they can only reunite when the power is turned on is actually an incredibly unique and very fucking cool idea. Verrückt is a map that really stands itself out from the other World at War maps for me, but at the end of the day, it is just a World at War map. It is just a relatively fucking generic, smaller zombies map that doesn't really do anything, and for that reason it has to be C tier, even though I like it. Coming up next is actually Kino. I personally really don't like Kino. I think Kino is the most fucking overrated map ever. I just think Kino does everything mediocre. Kino does not really excel at any aspect that another map doesn't in any sort of way. The only thing, hear me out, right? The only thing Kino has going for it is the Thunder Gun and the stage. That is literally it. And that is not a lot. Ascension, literally the first DLC in that game, in Black Ops 1, does that better than Kino does. Thankfully, in the Black Ops 3 remake, they actually fixed one of the hugest oversights with it, and that was in BO1, there was literally no reason to ever go out the left side. Even with double tap, there was actually just genuinely no reason to ever buy those doors, because there was just nothing good there. Unless the box went there, that was literally it. Whereas in Black Ops 3, at least, you can sit there with Alchemical and you can do the really tight train outside double tap and get to high rounds really quickly. That is something that I think is really, really good. And I'm also really happy that they changed the Thunder Gun so that it does, do drops. I think that's something that really held back some of the older Black Ops games, is I think having Wonder Weapons not give drops is just kind of, really fucking stupid, to be honest with you. But yeah, moving away from just Black Ops 1 in general, Kino to Toe does literally nothing special. You have a kind of coolish theme with, this empty theater, and that's about it. Even some parts of it don't really have that same really cool atmosphere as the stage room. I think the rest of the map, apart from Spawn, is pretty just generic looking. It's really not that crazy unique, I think. I'm really struggling to find things to say about Kino. Kino is just a pretty fucking generic map that is literally at worst a Reese and just does nothing apart from the Thunder Gun and a fucking... I'll be honest, the stage is not even that good. It's just mediocre. There's not a lot for Kino, and the only reason I put it over Verrückt is because there's Pack-a-Punch, right? There's like a bit more complexity to it. It's a bigger map. That's really it. That's the only reason Kino is above Verrückt. Coming in at the next C tier is Nuketown, and I'll be honest, I was actually really close to putting Nuketown at B tier. Nuketown, I think, is a very, very fun survival map, but because it's a survival map, I can't put it any higher. I think Nuketown is another, sort of Verrückt type thing, where it's not really... It's aware that it's not supposed to be, some crazy, complicated map that has a lot of really cool shit to it. It's just a survival map, and it gets the job done with that. And it's a good survival map. Nuketown plays with some really fucking cool ideas. Not only is the map layout, in my opinion, while it's not the best map layout, it's very simple, and it doesn't flow the best. I think it's just very fun, right? Regardless of the fact that it's a multiplayer remake, having like a little, not an actual neighborhood, but having like a nuclear test facility as a zombie setting is incredibly good. I love the nuclear explosion, the little mushroom cloud going off in the background. I think that's really, really fucking cool, and I really do like how all the perks drop at different times. I know that's something that a lot of people hate. I get that, but I think it's actually really fucking cool, and I think it adds a lot of uniqueness to the map. I'm not normally a fan of maps that have like random perk locations, but I think Nuketown actually does it really, really well because it's a survival map. But because it's a survival map and it doesn't really do anything crazy, I can't put it any higher than C. Coming in B tier is Dire Eyes. Now, I know this is going to be a really hot take. I know that's going to be a hot take. And I know it's going to piss some people off, especially when I put shit like Kino and Octon Moon really, really low. I actually think Dire Eyes is a really good map, and I think people need to fucking move on. I think people look at Dire Eyes and they remember Transit and they remember that era of Black Ops 2, and I think they just need to move the fuck on. Dire Eyes is not a bad map. I'm a Dire Eyes stan. Fuck it, I'll say it. I agree with Johnny J, alright? If I was not broke, I would have contributed to that sign that he put outside the Treyarch Studios. Dire Eyes is a really good map. The only flaw I will say is that the map is not reversible. Like, you can't go back the way you came in a lot of areas. That's really the only flaw. Waiting for the elevators really isn't a huge pain. You're not going to be riding the elevators if it's mid-round anyway, so it's not like the biggest fucking pain in the ass because of how those elevators actually work. And I think with very few exceptions, like I think the power room's the only exception, I think the elevators are completely fucking fine. There's no real problem with them. Sure, it would be nice to have an elevator key to control them, but the map doesn't break without it like Moon does, for example. I think, it's actually really, really fine. I also want to talk about really quickly the setting of the map. I fucking love the setting, right? I can't get enough of the setting of Dire Eyes. I used to love that shit as a kid, especially. Not being able to see the floor of Dire Eyes, like not being able to see the bottom of the map, and just having grey fog is a fucking brilliant addition in my mind. I used to imagine personally when I was younger that underneath all that grey smog is just fucking crazy amounts of zombies, and you just can't see them because of the smog, and that's why they keep respawning. That to me personally was always just a really cool thing. The skybox is brilliant. A lot of the actual rooms are really fucking cool. How they're upside down, like the Buddha room's completely upside down. Certain other parts are upside down. The initial box spawn location is fucking upside down, which I think is just really cool. I think having upside down rooms in zombies is just really fucking sick. I think the spawn room's incredible. I think the dragon part of the map, where you're on the rooftop going back towards spawn, I think is really, really great. The only bad part of the map, I would say, is the power room. That's the only part of the map that's not very good. But I think all the other maps, all the other parts are really good. This map introduced crazy good not wonder weapons. It actually did. No, I'm sorry. The Sliquifier is to this day one of the most fun wonder weapons ever, in my opinion. Especially the fucking slide mechanic, even though it's a little bit gimmicky. Shit's just really fucking fun. Trample Seam's a great addition. That's really fun. Not Wonder Weapons. The wall weapons are great. I think they're a great fucking addition. And one thing I really want to touch on before I move on from Dire Eyes, people bitch about this map because they fall off of it. And I think literally the only response to that is just put in a little bit more effort, right? The primary age demographic, not demographic or target audience, but the primary group of people that play Call of Duty's games are 12-year-olds, right? Like, if a 12-year-old kid can do the Dire Eyes jumps without falling, like, you can do. You'll be right. Just put in a little bit more effort, you know? It's really not that fucking complicated. I could understand if you were drunk or some shit, but, if you're just a fucking regular person playing some Dire Eyes and you fall to your death and you go, oh, dude, this is a shit map. I want to die to zombies, not falling. You're just kind of dog shit. I don't know. I can't really be that nice about it. Just put a little bit more effort in. It's not a fucking hard thing to do. Get over it. You'll be right. That's pretty much all I can say about that. Next we have Der Riese. Der Riese is another map that I'm not the biggest fan of because it's overrated. I think a lot of people put Der Riese as this crazy like double S tier map, and it's really not. It does some cool things. I think the layout of the maps are really, really cool. I think the quest is actually like a nice, simple quest for Pack-a-Punch. I think that's really cool. I think the setting's cool. It's not the craziest setting, but the setting is pretty nice. Der Riese just does a lot of stuff to a pretty good standard, and it doesn't really have any drawbacks. The only problem is it does all of those things to just a pretty good standard and nothing else. Like, Der Riese doesn't really do anything crazy fucking well. The catwalk is nice, but if you're gonna look at me and go, hey buddy, Der Riese has the catwalk, you gotta put that shit in S tier. Like, I'm just kind of gonna assume that you're like 28 and you played World at War when you were like 13, which is it's fine, but like you're just kind of remembering shit when you were a kid at that point, to be honest. And I know I did just say that about Dire Eyes, but that was a little bit more less I'm not actually rating Dire Eyes B tier because I like to think that there are a bunch of zombies underneath the fog. That's just a little cool fucking thing. Not the entire reason why it's B tier. Der Riese just doesn't really do a whole lot of shit spectacularly. It's just a solid map with some, a good layout, good setting, good wonder weapon. I've already said that all, but yeah, there's just not a whole lot to say about Der Riese. It's just a pretty solid map. Like a good map that just gets overrated a lot. I think it caps out at B tier. Alright, the next map we're going to put in is Ascension. Ascension, I think, is the first map that I would say is a completely good map. Actually, that's not true. I'd say that with Dire Eyes. I just don't think Der Riese is that great. I might actually come back and switch Dire Eyes and Der Riese around. Actually, yeah, fuck it. I think Dire Eyes... Oh, do I? No, I can't move Dire Eyes back purely because you can't go back the way you came. I can't move Dire Eyes. Ascension, really good solid map. PhD, stamina up, crazy good. The monkeys, while they were definitely annoying in Black Ops 1, are nowhere near as bad as in Black Ops 3. Just don't have a Perkaholic, and it's like not really that big of a deal. They're actually a really fun and creative, different type of boss when they're not stupidly OP like they were in BO1. They just work like pretty uniquely, and I think that's a really nice fact. I think the pack punch system is great. That's a really, really cool quest, especially because you can fucking blow up the rocket. Like, not only are you launching the rocket, you can blow it up. Really, really player-friendly map. Yes, it is too easy. That is the only issue I have with it. But if if you want to make it harder, you can. That's like, I don't think easiness is generally a problem in Call of Duty Zombies games. If you want to make a map harder, you can. Like, if you want to make Ascension challenging, just sit in stamina up with 2 snipers only. Like, set rules for yourself. You can make workarounds to that. Unlike when a map's too hard, like 5, you can't really make the map easier for yourself. Ascension does a lot of shit really to just a good standard. It kind of does what Der Riese does, but it adds on extra cool shit like the perks and the better, cooler pack punch and the first Easter egg ever being added. Ascension actually is an Easter egg, unlike Der Riese. Like, I don't really count Samantha's Lullaby, or not Samantha's Lullaby, Samantha's hide and seek game as an Easter egg. It is, but it's not like Ascension level. I think Ascension's just a really solid map. I'm struggling to say some stuff about these middle tier maps because a lot of them just do a good job at what they do. They don't do crazy shit. They just do a really good job with not too many flaws. Coming in at our first A tier map, it's actually Shang. Now, I think Shang is actually a really fucking good map, but I think Shang was really close to being another 5. And the only reason Shang isn't another 5 is purely for 2 reasons. PhD Flopper and the Baby Maker. That's literally it. Those 2 things save the map. Otherwise, Shang does a lot of really similar things to 5. Yes, there aren't the really cool characters, but the actual setting of Shang is fucking incredible, right? It's a really tight-knit map that's really hard and difficult, but not unplayable like 5 can be. But Shang also does some really cool shit with the fucking setting. Like, Shangri-La is a beautiful map, especially in BO3. I think everyone can agree that Shang looks fucking outstanding. And I think it just, yeah, sorry, I know I'm repeating myself with this, sorry. But Shang's fucking beautiful, right? I'll move on now. I think the Baby Maker is probably one of the most fun wonder weapons ever, and definitely the most unique. I don't really need to explain that, to be honest. I think anyone who knows the Baby Maker and what it does can completely just agree with that. I think the Baby Maker is fucking fantastic. I think PhD being on the map, it completely saves it. I think running around the map, this really tight map with the Mustang and Sally is actually really, really fun. And I think the BO3 version is actually significantly worse because there's no PhD. I think the bosses on the map are also incredible. The monkeys are actually really fucking cool. Not only can you get free perks from them, but you can also, get all the extra like 1,000, 2,000 points from knifing them and shit. That's something that makes the map a lot easier at early rounds. Like, you can kill a monkey, you can get a double points, and then knife a monkey and get like 1,000 points on like round 2. Like, you can get some really cool shit from the monkeys. I think both the Shrieker and the Napalm Zombie also work really, really well. They're not super duper imposing, they're just sort of mini things that are hazard if you're in the wrong area. The only time they're actually a really, really big threat is if, let's say, you have the Napalm Zombie in one of the really tight tunnels. That's essentially it. Otherwise, you can just run past the Napalm Zombie and he literally takes care of himself. And the Shrieker is not that much stronger than a regular zombie. He just kind of fucks up your vision a little bit if you don't take care of him. Overall, I think the bosses actually work really well in tandem with the map. I think Shang's just a really fucking good map. It does not do a lot of things wrong. The pack punch is really, really, really nice how that shit works. How, again, you can see it from spawn like you can with Der Riese, and how it's actually really simple to unlock. Considering how hard Shang is as a map, I think that having a simple pack punch process is actually a really fucking good idea. And yeah, Shang's just a fucking good map. There's not a whole lot I can say about it. It's A tier for me, definitely. Coming in next, in the final BO1 map, it's actually Call of the Dead. I think Call of the Dead is great. I think George Romero is really a standout part of Call of the Dead, and I think that's another thing that Tag the Toad kind of fucks up. And I understand why they couldn't use George Romero, don't get me wrong, but George is a really fucking cool aspect of Call of the Dead. And I know that some people really hate him, but all it requires is that you just don't camp, and when you shoot your train, you move them a little bit further away. That's really it. He can also only be on one player at a time, so it's not like, he's a super duper over encumbering boss, especially on multiplayer. Even in single player, if he's a walking speed type boss, you can just kind of move a bit further away from him when you shoot, especially in the really good training area outside the lighthouse. It's a really big area. You can just run the zombies a bit further away, and then you'll be completely fine. And if you do piss them off, you can run into the water, and then you have Mustang and Stallion PhD, you'll be completely fine. Also, I think the way that he gives you a free perk is great. I love that after the really fun, by the way, I want to say the Easter egg, I'll touch on that really quickly. The Easter egg's really fun and really cool. I love that after you do the Easter egg, you can get his drop changes permanently from a death machine to a wonder waff. I think that's fantastic. I think the scavenger as a wonder weapon is absolutely fantastic as well. I think it's a really, again, I think a really unique and fun wonder weapon. I think it does similar things to this Liquefire and the Baby Maker. Obviously, it's nowhere near as good. It's just a really unique and fun wonder weapon. I love the setting of Call of the Dead. I love that you have the celebrity cast, even if they're not the best celebrity cast, even though, they're a little bit average. I think just having a celebrity cast in general is really nice. Overall, Call of the Dead just really does nothing wrong. Maybe Jug's a little bit far away from spawn, but you can just muscle through that. That's not too big of a deal. And maybe if you could make George leave for a little bit longer, that's really it. It does nothing wrong apart from the fact that you cannot get to a high round on it. This will become a bigger feature later on, with a certain map that I'll name later. But I really like going to high rounds, and when high rounds either aren't possible or are a huge pain in the ass, I actually really dislike that. And that's the only thing I have wrong with Call of the Dead, to be honest. The fact that you can't get to a super duper high round. That's literally the only reason it's not S tier. Coming in next is actually Revelations. Revelations is a map that I've had a very mixed feelings upon, because when the map first dropped, I went for a high round on it, and because it was so easy, I hit round 80 within like the first 12 hours of the map dropping. And I remember at one point I was actually 8th in the world on PS4 ladders, and obviously that means nothing, because it was just around 80 and the map had only been out for 12 hours. But as a young kid, that was, as a 13-year-old at the time, that was crazy fun. But then I very quickly realized that Revelations adds literally nothing new. Apart from the Easter egg, the spawn room, and the Apothicon like inside of him, Revelations adds literally nothing. And that is very not good. It's really weird that Revelations adds nothing, and that really does kind of tank the map. But overall, the map, what it does have, the sections of the map that do exist are phenomenal. I think the flow of the map works really, really well. I think the setting is fucking amazing. I think Revelations is the most beautiful zombies map ever. I think it beats Shang. I think it beats Shadows in terms of like beautifulness, beautifulness in terms of like beauty and and that sort of shit rather than theme. I think Revelations' setting is fucking incredible. I think anyone who disagrees with that is a bit fucking loopy. Like, it's a cool setting. I love that Thundergun was brought back. That's really cool. I will say that the Panzer's coming back. I did wish, a few more shit came back. Maybe, instead of the Panzer, maybe it was like the Napalm Zombie. Like, I think the Napalm Zombie could be a really fun addition to Revelations. I wish Revelations experimented a bit more. But what's there really fucking works. And I mean, of course it does. It takes all the best aspects from all the different COD Zombies maps and just kind of sticks them together on different islands. And then you copy the Wonder Sphere mechanism. I think it's called the Wonder Sphere from Der Eisendrache. That little mechanism, and it launches you around the islands. I think it's great. I think the inside of the Apothicon is fucking fantastic. I think the inside of the Apothicon with Pack Punches is by far one of the most unique areas in any COD Zombies game. The Easter egg does kind of suck. The last boss fight is a huge letdown, and that's kind of one of the main reasons, alongside the fact that there's nothing new, why Revelations is an S. But I'll be honest, I think what is there with Revelations, even though nothing new was really added, what's there really fucking works, and it works really, really well. And for that reason, it's A. Now, this next map, is actually going to be really weird for me to place. I'm not too sure where I want to place this map because I have very mixed feelings about this map. There are some things that I love about it, and there are some things that I hate about it. But I think I have to put, at the end of the day, because I don't think it's a perfect map, I think I have to put Grod Crovy in A tier. And that's going to piss some people off. And I get you, right? Grod Crovy does a lot of things well. I think the atmosphere and the setting of the war-torn Soviet Russia is fantastic. I love everything to do with the dragons. I'll rant about the dragons in a bit. I love Primus Nikolai. I love the boss fight. Yeah, there's a lot of shit that it does right. But there's a few things that it does really wrong, and that kind of irks me. But first, on the good thing, on the good side, the dragons are incredible. I said I would rant about them in a little bit, I'm going to rant about them now. The dragons are incredible. The dragons show what Treyarch has learnt from previous Zombies maps with how the map interacts with the player and how they fixed it. The dragons are phenomenal. Just setting-wise, they're cool as fuck. I don't think anyone's going to deny that. Specifically, as someone whose favourite game is Skyrim, when I saw dragons and zombies, I was fucking foaming at the mouth. Like, I love that shit. I love how they interact with the map. I love the fact that they breathe fire around the map. I think it's incredible. I think it adds so much fucking atmosphere. And more importantly, I like that you can choose to fucking ignore it. Both the shield and the dragon wings completely get rid of the fire damage. And what that shows you is that they learned from Transit. You boys remember this little fucker down here? You remember him? You remember the years and years and years of Transit hate? The fuckers learned something. You can completely ignore the fire in Gorod, and that's incredible. I don't really need to explain about that anymore. Being able to ignore the fire is just such a fucking nice thing. It just adds so much shit to the map. I love the dragon cutscene. I think the dragon's cutscene to Pack-a-Punch is by far the coolest Pack-a-Punch method in any Zombies map. Rivaling maybe Mob of the Dead. Maybe that's about it. Mob of the Dead and Revelation is the only maps that really rival it. Grod Crovy does insane with that, and I love that they animated this huge fucking cutscene, this really probably expensive cutscene, and they went, you know what? This fucker's a little long. People might get annoyed at that. Let's let them fucking skip it. These motherfuckers put in a fast travel to Pack-a-Punch because they sat there and went, you know what? This shit might be a bit tedious. And that is great. That shows how much thought and care was put into the map. I love the fact that the dragons can also be used both in the dragon egg. I love that the Gauntlet of Siegfried has a dragon on it. I think the specialist weapon is fucking amazing. Both the dragon that you can shoot fire from, the little whelp, and the fist that you can use to punch are incredibly fun to use. I also love how they really, the dragon egg obviously just fits the theme of the map so well. I also love the little, I'm forgetting the name of it, the Dragon Strike. That's what it's called. Love the Dragon Strike. The fact that you can call down a dragon to essentially act as a really powerful monkey bomb. Or I forget what they're called. I think they were the Sentry Grenades from Origins, where you can get the 100-foot robots to fire down. It's great. I love that exists, and I love that it's utilized. But now moving on to some of the bad things. First, I want to say I hate the Rhaegar Mark III. I think the Rhaegar Mark III is the least fun, and obviously not the worst on paper, but in my opinion, the worst Raygun ever. I hate the Rhaegar Mark III. Thing's fucking ugly, feels horrible to use. It doesn't not fit the tone of the map, but it's just really fucking underwhelming. Have this crazy big explosive map like Gorod, and the Wonder Weapon's just another Raygun. Like, I don't know. Even the Rhaegar Mark II was like paired with the Paralyzer. It just it doesn't really fit well. The Rhaegar Mark III feels like a weapon that could be on every single BO3 map, the same way the Rhaegar Mark II was. It's really underwhelming, right? And don't get me wrong, the slow motion aspect of it is cool, but the fact that the black hole stops being any good at round 50, and that the I think it's the left trigger laser just does fucking nothing, is really fucking annoying. I will also say that I'm not a huge fan of the Easter egg. Love the boss fight, love the dragon boss fight, love the Nikolai boss fight, love the cutscene. Everything else is not very fun. I don't like the bomb step. The bomb step sits a bit wrong with me, but I think my issues with the bomb step stem from a personal distaste for it. I don't think it's an actual bad part of the map. The parts that I think are bad are all the tedious as fuck little when you have to move the little zombies. So both the not the Thrasher, I'm blanking on his name, but the boss zombie, how you have to run those through and collect them for what's her name, um, Sophia, and the Valkyrie drone or Nemo that you have to collect for Sophia are really fucking annoying. I also really dislike that the map struggles from Zetsubou no Shima elevator theme. The entire map, the entire Easter egg I mean, stems from this one core premise. Nikolai is out of power. Sophia wants you to do shit so that she will give you the power. That's essentially it. You are really just doing tasks for Sophia so she'll give you the power call, and then she flies away to go fuck Maxis, and then you go jump into the little drain that was beneath it. That's really it. And that does not sit well for me. I just don't like it. It's not super creative, it just feels like another, how the elevator does in Zetsubou. It just doesn't really feel right. I also want to say, well, I think the Manglers are a really good boss. I think they're a fine boss. Actually, I don't even think they're a really good boss. They're kind of a fucking pushover. But they're kind of whatever. They're not a bad part of the map. The Valkyries are really annoying. And the only reason I'll ever keep the Rhaegar Mark III on me for going for a high round is purely because the Valkyries are fucking tanks. And their body size hitbox is huge. And they're annoying as fuck. And they don't sit the theme of the map. And I hate the Valkyrie rounds because you always get that one fucker, that one little fucking Valkyrie that'll hide somewhere and will spawn the electric zombies and it'll just sit there. And you have to run around all over the place to find it. I also hate that the only good high round strategy on Grod Krovi requires for you to keep 2 doors closed. 2 doors, mind you, that are fucking drastically important to the flow of the map. Now, I want to say I know that's optional. I know you obviously do not have to keep the doors closed. It's a completely optional playstyle. But considering that the only really good high round strategy is to do that, personally, really takes away from the map. And I really can't put it anywhere other than A. That and also the fact that there's really no good training spot. Even... you have the little area underneath Speedcola. That's an okay training spot, I guess. And then the shield room. The shield room is really not even that good of a training spot either. The only reason it's any good is because the shield's there and the electric trap's there. Yeah, I don't know. Grotto Krovi is a map that I think does some things spectacularly and other things really bad. And for that reason, I can only put it at A. Now, there is a map here that I'm sure some of you guys will be looking at and will be a little bit confused as to why it's still here, and that's actually Buried. Now, I think Buried's a crazy good map. I think Buried does nothing wrong and everything right. The Paralyzer is a fantastic wonder weapon, both in its design of how it visually looks and how it works when killing zombies. I love how it interacts with the map, how you can fly around with it and get to areas you previously couldn't. I think that's incredible. I wish more wonder weapons actually interacted with the map. Love Leroy. Leroy does an insane amount of shit, and the fact that I actually don't even know all the stuff he does goes to show how much stuff he can do. I think the Easter eggs are really good. I love all the different buildables you can do. I love the setting. I love the cowboy underground theme. I love the music that goes with the map. I love how the zombies are little dressed as, fucking cowboys and shit. Love the witches. I think the witches are a crazy unique boss, and I think they're really, really cool. And I think they make Buried the only scary map, apart from maybe Verrückt and Mob of the Dead, ever in zombies. They're actually genuinely unsettling. Love the little haunted house sort of thing that goes on with a mansion. I love the maze. I love how it constantly changes. I love how you can fly over the doors with the Paralyzer. I love how there's a little well in the middle that sends you back to spawn. I love how every time you go through it, every 3 to 4 rounds, you get a free perk. I love how far pack punches away. I love how it feels like a mission every time. Love, 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 fucking love Buried. I love how many points you can get, both with Leroy himself and the little wall weapons, not even just with the bank. And I love the spawn room. I love that the LSAT is available off of the spawn room. I think it's crazy unique. I think Buried does everything right. I don't think Buried does a single thing wrong, to be honest with you. I just can't think of anything Buried does wrong. If your complaint with Buried is that it's too easy, just don't camp with the Paralyzer. That's it. Buried's a really fucking good map. I think it's easily deserving of S tier in my opinion. And now that we've got Buried out of the way, we're going to come to a point where I think everyone really expects this. These next four maps, everyone in the community loves. I don't think there's any real, debate about that. Maybe you get a few, like, Black Ops 1 hardcore fans that are still playing Kino and shit that don't like these maps, but, that's kind of whatever. And they're really hard to split apart, but there is one out of the four that unfortunately I do think is slightly worse than the other three, and that's Mob of the Dead. And that does pain me to say because I love Mob. But very recently I went for a round 100 in Mob, and I did hit it and complete it, but that unfortunately did make the map a little bit worse in my eyes and in my opinion than the other three. Now, I haven't talked about this yet in the video, but I hate trap maps. Maps like 5 and BO1 Kino that really rely on you hitting a trap every time to kill zombies, I despise. I actually really fucking hate that. And the fact that the only way to get to a higher round of Mob of the Dead is the trap is enough, in my opinion, to take it below these other three. Still a fantastic map. Still love it to death. Still think it's one of the best zombie maps ever made. But that little feature, that and how much it actually relies on the Vitrolic Withering, which I made a separate video about that, if you want to watch, go check that out. I think the map relies too much on the Vitrolic Withering. Those two little details are enough for me to put it at fourth, Still love everything else. I love how it's basically a movie in a map. I love the setting. I love that it's gangsters and zombies in Purgatory on Alcatraz Island. I love the San Francisco Bridge Pack-a-Punch area. I love the boss, Brutus. I love the Easter egg. I love the little Easter egg quotes you get from Brutus. I love the story. I love the characters. Love everything about Mob. Love the soundtrack. I really do love everything about Mob of the Dead. I think it's fantastic. But that tiny little two things is enough for it to be number 4 for me, just personally. Because the other maps are just so fucking good. That little detail brings it down a bit. Now, these next three are really hard, because unlike Mob of the Dead, they don't have one thing for me that makes it slightly worse. But after a lot of thought, I did finally decide that I think Der Eisendrache is third best. Now, the only two things, the really small fucking tiny things that I think take it below Origins and Shadows is one, the Panzer. I don't like how he turns into a crazy bullet sponge in higher rounds that takes 3 full Haymaker clips to kill in round 100. I think Origins handles the Panzer way better. And I hate that he is tasers. I think that's really fucking... Shock charges on the Panzer is just really fucking annoying. I do wish that you could build all of the bows at the same time like you can in Origins. I know it's not necessary for the Easter egg, thankfully, but I think the map would just flow a bit better if you could build all the bows at the same time. And that's pretty much it. I also think that the separation of wonder weapons is a little bit more noticeable in DE than Origins. Like the lightning bow and the wolf bow are noticeably a bit better than both the wolf and fire bow, and I think Origins hides that better. On Origins, for example, it's for the wind staff at least, it's more about the ammo, and Alchemical fixes that. But even Alchemical, the Alchemical really doesn't fix both the fire bow or the void bow. Doesn't really fix the lightning bow either, but three is still better than 2. So for those tiny reasons, I think D is third. Still love the Easter eggs, fucking incredible. I think Easter eggs, if it's not the best, I think it's tied for the best. I think it has crazy, the whole moon blowing up and shit. I love the wonder weapons. I think they're beautiful. Easily the best looking wonder weapons. Love them all. Love the design aspect for them. Love the concept behind them all. Love the DG4. Think the DG4 is crazy unique. Even if it is a copy from multiplayer, it still feels amazingly unique. Love the transportation. I love the fact that you can fly across the map with the Wonder Spheres. The Wonder Spheres make the map flow so unbelievably well. I love the little rocket testing area. That shit's really fucking cool. Love the Wolf King story. I love the theme and the setting. I love how it's in the snow and the Austrian hills and the castle. DE is just great. Can't stress that enough. I love DE, but unfortunately it is third. Now these next two, it's actually it's a little bit weird how I'm gonna do this. So the map that I'm gonna put at number 2 is my favorite map, but I think the number 1 map is better. So my favorite map that I'm now gonna put at number 2, it's actually Origins. Now Origins is incredible. The only real slight problem with Origins, the only like even slightly negative thing, is the Templar zombies, but they're really only like a tiny problem for the first couple of rounds after they start spawning. After about round 20, you can just ignore them, you can just let them go. They also give you max ammo, so even though they're a tiny bit of a nuisance, they give you max ammo, so that's just, completely makes up for it. Everything else in Origins is amazing. Easter egg is amazing. I think it is the only one that ties DE. I think Origins Easter egg and Horizons Easter egg are the two best Easter eggs, and I think they're tied for the best. Staffs are fucking amazing. I also really want to quickly talk about the speedrunning. I think the speedrunning for Origins is incredible. I think the speedrunning for the Origins Easter egg really sets it apart. Love the new characters, love the war-torn setting, love how you can see all the zombies on the spikes, love the snow rounds and the rain rounds compared to the normal rounds, love the skybox. The skybox looks amazing, love seeing the blimps, love seeing the airplanes fly around as you're fighting. The Panzer is really good on this map. The Panzer is handled really well, and I think the Panzer in Origins is probably one of the best zombie bosses ever. Origins just does nothing wrong. It does everything really, really fucking good. There's no thing with that. It would be number 1 if it had the Wonder Sphere, right? If there was a Wonder Sphere going from like Generator 6 to Generator 1, it would be the best map, but because it does not have that, Shadows of Evil is better. But yeah, Origins number 2, I think Origins is incredible. I think there's literally nothing wrong. Origins is fantastic. I'm not going to ramble about it too much because I think everyone has heard about Origins a lot, so I'm not going to talk your ear off about it. But yeah, Origins number 2. And now finally at number 1, we have SOE. Oh, better put that there. Shadows of Evil is a masterclass in atmosphere. The map is fucking incredible with its theme and its atmosphere and its characters. And the soundtrack. Don't even get me started on the jazz soundtrack. I'm not normally a jazz guy, but holy shit does that soundtrack fucking go off. Alright, I'm just gonna chuck that in there real quick. The theme is amazing. Love all the Origins, sorry, not Origin, all the orange lights. All the orange lights really set the map apart. Makes it feel fucking incredible. Really quickly gonna chuck that in. Love all the Cthulhu-inspired stuff, the Magua, the Shadow Man, the Marastugwa. All incredible. So absolutely incredibly unique, and a really big risk for the team for Treyarch to take. And I think it actually pulled off incredibly well. Can't speak enough about how I think Shadows of Evil did really, really good with the whole Cthulhu shit. Love the swords. The swords that you can get as the specialist weapon are incredibly fun to use. I love them. Love the Magua. The Magua is I would say the Magua is in my top 3 favorite bosses. I think the Maguas work really, really well. I think the Easter eggs is actually pretty good. I think the Easter egg would be better if you could do it in single player, but otherwise I think Easter eggs are really, really good. I think the characters are amazing. I fucking love listening to Jeff Goldblum. I play as Jeff Goldblum all day. I really cannot think of anything negative about Shadows apart from the fact that Easter eggs 4 players. That's it. And that is why it's number 1 for me. Because I really sat down. I was like, what is bad about Shadows? I cannot think of anything. Even the map flow. The teleporters aren't quite as good as the Wonder Spheres on DE, but they're still pretty fucking top notch. I also want to say the Pack Punch upgrade, the quest, is really, really fun to do. I think it's the best one ever, I would say. I think it works really, really well. I think it feels one of the best. You know, the whole that crazy song they put on when you are doing the ritual, the final one. All of Shadows is good. I'm not going to talk very much longer about it because I'm actually starting to get really tired. Yeah, Shadow's number one. I'm actually going to end the video here. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you watched all the way through, I love you for that. That's really fucking, that actually feels really nice. Put a lot of effort into this. This is actually my second time recording the video, and my second time in this recording session doing the final five, because the first time I did the video, I got all the way up to Origins, and then I ran out of space on my computer, and the file corrupted, so I had to start again, and then I stopped recording this one at Grodkrovi, and then I forgot to press re-record, so I did all of Buried, Mob, and DE, and I had to sit down and go, oh shit, okay, I have to do all of those again. But yeah, really hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope I wasn't too mean with like my diarize bit about falling off the map and my bullying of BO4. Real quick, if you're wondering why I haven't done Cold War, it's because this list isn't updated for Cold War. Also, at this point, the only zombies map to drop so far has been Die Maschine. Firebase Z has not come out yet. And really quickly, I think I'm not going to talk about it very much, but I think I'd put Die Maschine in somewhere around C tier, probably above Kino and behind Nuketown is where I'd put it, because I think Die Maschine is a really forgettable map that doesn't do a whole lot of crazy shit. I think the best part of it is the Wonder Weapon and the Dark Airfield. That's really it. Hate the characters and the storyline. And even the Easter egg I'm not too fond on. But yeah, I'm going to end it here. Thank you guys very much for watching. Peace out, and I'll see you next time. Peace.